So, you've clicked on a thumbnail of the Red Bull Exodus, and I'm going to start by talking about Ferrari. Don't go just yet. I haven't gone crazy yet. If anyone, has been a part of this channel, they know that we like to take the scenic route to get to the conclusion. We like to have a good discussion about the whole thing. And if you enjoy, person that goes through the scenic route to talk about certain things, talk about the big picture and everything like that, you'll really enjoy this content. So feel free to like and subscribe. But yeah, I want to talk about Ferrari first of all, and talk about not current Ferrari, but actually the Ferrari that a lot of us remember. The Ferrari of the 2000s, the Michael Schumacher era Ferrari. And if you are a similar age to me, you grew up watching, growing up watching Formula One when Michael Schumacher was absolutely dominating in the 2000s. And maybe like me, because I was quite young at that time, I thought that it was a Michael Schumacher thing, right? Michael Schumacher was just that good of a driver. And then growing up, and especially after realising that Michael Schumacher didn't have the skill in the late 2000s, when he was at Ferrari, when Alonso was doing better, and especially around the time of when he was at Mercedes, realising that it's more than just the driver, that it's also the car, it's the team, it's everything like that. And the fact that it was a properly built Ferrari car. Now, don't get me wrong, Michael Schumacher is still a talented driver, and if you'd have given me that Ferrari from the 2000s, I probably would have had a finishing record closer to Riccardo Rossi than let's say Rubens Barrichello. But so Michael Schumacher is still a talented driver, but there was an incredible team behind him. And it's actually interesting we're talking about this because Jean Todt, the CEO of Ferrari at the time, the principal, was actually on a podcast over the weekend at High Performance talking about this and talking about the fact that he brought in the best of the best. And really, it was a full, proper team. We've already spoken to Jean Todt, we've already spoken to Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello was a brilliant driver at the time. But the people that we most remember in terms of those solid guys that kept Ferrari going was Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne. Rory Byrne was the guy that designed it. Ross Brawn was the the technical director. Of course, race engineers are also important, as any Hamilton fan will know, especially from seeing last year, of just how poor a race engineer can be and how badly they could affect a team. It's everyone is needed, right? I think it's one of those, when you grow up, you start off thinking that Formula One is an individual sport, and you find out, no, this is actually the pure team sports that there could ever be. Now, why am I mentioning all this? Because that was over 20 years ago now. Scary, I know. Over 20 years ago. Well, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because there's a lot of people, thanks to Drive to Survive, that joined in watching Formula One at around the time that another great team was in its pomp, and maybe the focus was on one driver. That being Red Bull, the Red Bull racing team, right? Growing up, potentially if you came from, the Drive to Survive era, you probably would have been in that situation of going, Max Verstappen. It's a Max Verstappen era. He is just that good. He is that good of a driver. And then, as the years have progressed, and especially over the past, 2 or 3 years, due to this breakdown that we're going to be discussing, we're realising, Verstappen is a great driver and he's showing it, but it's more than just that. And this is where we want to talk about the fact that we are now coming to the end of that Red Bull era. Now, there are arguments to say that this Red Bull team is one of the greatest Red Bull teams that's been built over the past few decades. Now, I'm in the Mercedes camp. I thought they were better, but I can certainly appreciate that the Red Bull team was a solid team unit together with all the individuals that we're talking about here. And much similar to the Ferrari situation is that the individuals that we know about more, they're not the ones really we're talking about. And this is to show you just how close we are getting to the end of an era, right? Because let me just show you the key Red Bull guys that have left. The chief engineer, Rob Marshall. Key feature, he was the one, he moved to McLaren in 2023. Interestingly enough, McLaren started doing well from 2023. The chief engineer doing brilliantly well for Red Bull. Lee Stevenson, similar sort of thing. Very experienced chief mechanic, doing really well, right? Became, is now part of the Audi team. Adrian Newey at Aston Martin. Maybe you're slightly regretting that, but the Rob Byrne type character at Red Bull that was at Ferrari, this was the similar sort of thing at Red Bull. Then you've got Jonathan Wheatley, the sporting director, similar sort of role probably to Ross Brawn, doing pretty decently at Audi Sauber, and we know the experience that he's got. In fact, he was the one that would be on the radio just before Christian Horner would be. So he was like sort of almost like a deputy sometimes in that team. We come to Will Courtney, one of the strategy guys, left, and then moved to... Did he move to McLaren as well? Yeah, he moved to McLaren as well, right? Christian Horner left. Probably was a good thing in terms of him leaving. Helmut Marko, of course. And now we've had GP. Gianpiero Lambiase, who has left. The chief engineer, the person that has been in charge of Max Verstappen and talking to Max Verstappen over the races, he is now going to be leaving his role and he's going to be joining McLaren next year. And this is a thing. Out of that sort of star-studded team at Red Bull, we only have two left. Max Verstappen being one of them. The other one being Hannah Schmitz. Hannah Schmitz is the sole survivor of the Red Bull era, the strategy. The strategy queen. Absolutely incredible person, and she's certainly shown her skill. But she's the last one now, apart from Verstappen. So where are we going here? Well, there's two questions on this. There's the future for Verstappen. There's the future for Red Bull. Both of them need to be considered. So it is clearly the end of a Red Bull era, but let's start off with Verstappen first before we start talking about the continuation of Red Bull. Where does Verstappen go from here? Where does Verstappen go from here after seeing all of this incredible team leave? What does he do? Now, there have certainly been discussions, right? There's been rumours that Mercedes have reached out that have been going on for years. I think Ferrari have just started to join the picture. I have no idea why. There's certainly not a shortage of people that would be in teams that would be interested. And, that would be amazing to see. And, my thoughts of how good I feel that Max Verstappen is as a racing driver. He's going to have suitors everywhere. We obviously could be sort of look down our nose at the other racing series, but there are other great racing series that would be interested in having Max Verstappen join their party. Whether that be NASCAR, whether that be IndyCar, Paris-Dakar, I don't know. Obviously, GT racing, he's been at the Nürburgring. There are certainly a load of options. But I do think if Max Verstappen has been thinking about leaving, this is the perfect time to do so. Your whole team's leaving anyway, so you might as well leave as well, right? And what I mean by that is, if you ever have those things of, oh, I want to leave, normally it's when you have your team falling apart around you that you go, okay, then I don't have the emotional connection that I do anymore, right? You think about your time at a workplace, your heart is not as much in it when your best mates end up leaving the company, They might not get fired, but if they move on, you don't have the connection anymore, those multi-year connections that you've had, right? Say what you want about Christian Horner. Christian Horner has been Max Verstappen's boss for a long time. So there's been that familiarity will have gone. Now GP's on his way out. It's no longer Max Verstappen and the team around him. It sort of feels like Max Verstappen and Red Bull. The team is still supporting him, but there's not the emotional connection that there would have been with the people that basically brought him into Formula One in the first place. So if Verstappen is thinking about leaving, he's thinking about retiring, he's thinking about moving to a different sport, this is probably the perfect time to do it. So if he doesn't leave now, if he doesn't leave in the next year, we've got him for a lot longer. And, do you know what? Kudos to his loyalty if he does so. Right? I wouldn't do it, but kudos to him. If he thinks, do you know what? I want to build the team at Red Bull. Bring it back to its days. Because this is what we're talking about here, I want to talk about this, right? Schumacher moving from Benetton to Ferrari and helping to build the team and build the car so that it'd be better. Hamilton moving from McLaren to Mercedes and building the team and trying to do the same with Ferrari. Max Verstappen could do exactly that without having to move teams. Because in a sense, he is the person that the culture can be built upon if he knows what the winning formula is, which he certainly most likely does, right? So, either way, Verstappen's going to show his worth. He's going to show his qualities. And I'm not talking about qualities as a racing driver. I'm talking about qualities as being part of a team. So, keep an eye on Verstappen. But how about Red Bull? Is this it? Are we now talking about the fact that Red Bull are either going to go bankrupt or they're going to, lose their interests? It was Mateschitz, the principal that was obviously interested in Formula One. He's not around anymore, sadly. Is it going to be a case that now that most of the team have gone, there's not going to be the passion from the board anymore, and they're going to leave Formula One, maybe sell it back to Minardi or Jaguar, and then we end up with another situation, another takeover, something like that? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. And it's all down to the appointment that Red Bull made, because we're talking about the staff, that were there since day one. But there's one member of staff that is hugely important to the whole thing, Laurent Marquis. Now, I have sung this guy's praises so often. It almost feels like that I've almost become a solitary cheerleader for Laurent Marquis and Isaac Hadjar, right? This guy has been around the block. This guy has seen Formula One rebuilds, has seen team rebuilds. This guy knows how to do his stuff. And actually, when we think about it, look, Red Bull have not been great at the start of this season, but that's kind of to be expected. They're doing their own engines. They're starting from scratch. It's a weird playing field. But actually, you look at last season when Lauren McKeith joined Red Bull were on the up. Now, that's not all down to Lauren McKeith, but he's there as the team principal, as the CEO. He's there as the chief motivator, the one that he's meant to be implementing a culture, the one that can make drivers feel comfortable. And actually, right now, if we think about it, what we need right now is a guy that can build a team. And actually, the experience that he had at Toro Rosso, no, Visa Cash App RB or V Cup, whatever they're called, right? Before he moved over to Red Bull, in making Isaac Hadjar feel confident in himself despite having a rough first race and having the world against him, or the way he brought Liam Lawson's confidence back up after being dropped from Red Bull, all that sort of thing. He knows how to make drivers feel like they're worth it. And right now, Red Bull are in a situation where they probably need to build everything up from scratch. There's a likelihood they're going to be having inexperience. When I say inexperience, I mean relatively inexperienced. You know, they're still very experienced drivers and very experienced members of the staff. But maybe they are ones that have been at Sauber or have been at Williams. You know, they've been fighting for points, and it's a different feeling fighting for podiums or even wins. And they need that bigger brother, let's say, the person that gives an arm around their shoulder, makes them feel like they're worth it, even though they make mistakes. And there'll be strategy mishaps and things like that. They've got the perfect guy in charge in Lauren McKeith. I think he is the guy they need right now to keep going. So yeah, I think the future isn't as bad as we fear for Red Bull. I think there's still good places to go. Now, of course, they might not be the all-star team that dominated for 3-4 years straight. They might not be this incredible team that just can't help but build incredible cars, whether that be the car for Max Verstappen or the car for Sebastian Vettel. But don't get it twisted. This is still going to be a team that has the opportunity to fight for wins, fight for podiums. You know, we're probably looking at the Red Bull of, let's say, 2007 to 2009. Maybe they could fight for a championship, but there's still wins in them. There's still something in them. There's still fire. They can still take themselves seriously. And whilst the piranhas are there, grabbing away and snapping away the experienced heads, Red Bull can basically apply that V-car project to Red Bull when Red Bull needs it the most. So, yeah, it's going to be a rocky road for Red Bull. No doubt about it. But they've got the perfect guy to keep them going. Should the board be interested, should everything like that. It's going to be fascinating times. I'm very interested to see what happens. You know, this has been a incredibly fun and boring time. Those guys that remember the dominations of Vettel and Verstappen know just how boring those races can be. But that kind of shows the magnificence that Red Bull had. And we can appreciate the guys that have been there, the guys that are still there. You know, big up Hannah Schmitz for being, in a sense, the last one on the sinking Titanic before it lit, you know, or maybe it's not sinking Titanic, we never know, right? But the last one to go, apart from Verstappen. But you never know. This this could end up being the next era of Red Bull. Just because it's the end of an era doesn't mean it's doom from now. There's still exciting times ahead for Red Bull. So if you are a Red Bull fan, the team, I mean, not the drink, keep your chin up. I don't think it's that bad. But then again, my thoughts could be absolutely way off. So, if you've got any thoughts on it, any comments on it, then feel free to pop them down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. And as always, guys, take care.